I just am gonna make a couple quick announcements before Sue introduces our speakers that aren't here quite yet. But a couple quick things. After prom is looking for volunteers. They are desperate. I'm going to give you the new co-chair for After Prom. Her name is Ellen Sanchez. Her email is Ellen Sanchez, so it's ELLNSANCHEZRN@yahoo.com. Her cell number is 515-868-7513. And they've also set up a Facebook page. So if anybody who has a junior or a senior, you probably want to go ahead and start following that because it'll give all the information about Valley After Prom, and it's Valley After Prom 2020. So if you put that in your search box on Facebook, you can start getting information. But after prom, they're a little late to the game this year. The co-chairs that were going to do it had to pull out, and so after prom is getting a really late start. So they are in desperate need of volunteers. Their next meeting is going to be January 21st at Valley in the Media Center at 6 o'clock. So if you have any desire at all to help with after prom, it would be great if you could go to that meeting. I helped last year. There are lots of jobs, like big and small. There's lots of small jobs, getting food donations, helping with decorations. It does not need to be a big involvement. So I'd encourage anybody who's here to consider helping out with after prom. The other announcement I have, and there are handouts back there on the table, but the West Des Moines Community Schools Scholarship Fund, especially for anybody in here who has a senior, now is the time when they start applying for scholarships. I would encourage every senior to apply for these through the West Des Moines Community Schools. My understanding, I think pretty much everybody who applies gets a scholarship. So pick up a handout. They also have a Facebook page you can follow. So follow their Facebook page, and it also gives more information about the scholarship fund. And we are in the process of revising our bylaws for PTO. So the way that the bylaws were previously written is we need to get a vote from the general membership. We don't really have a general membership anymore the way we're structured, but because of the way we used to be structured, we're going to put that out to this group for a vote. So at the very end of this meeting, we're just going to say, does everybody approve the bylaws the way they are? Those bylaws are back there on the table. So should you want to see what the revisions are, they are in a document that has blue highlighting. Those are the revised documents. And then there are final documents with a table of contents on the front. So if you're interested and want to see what you're going to be voting on, then grab those copies of the bylaws, because at the end of the meeting, we will take a vote on those.
And those were sent out?
Yes, those were sent out via email, so, and notice was given. So if anybody has an interest in those. And then the last announcement is IMC.
Yes, the IMC just wanted us to put in a general plug, not to forget that they existed. What is this?
Instructional Materials Center.
Yes, and they used to be located in this building, and they're now located in the building where the print shop is, where the bus transportation folks are as well. And they're open every morning, Monday through Friday, one Saturday morning a month, and then Wednesday from noon until 6. And you can go there, laminate small, large items. You can make buttons, you can die cut stuff. They have paper and tools for you to do any sort of projects related to the schools at a very discounted rate. It's not free, but it's very discounted. Making buttons is $2.50 a button, so it's a very inexpensive way to get things done that you might need to get done for your student or their classes if you're helping out with something. So At any rate, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Sue Fisher. I'm one of the co-presidents. This is Brooke Atkinson. I don't know if you said your name. We're going to talk today, just do a little bit of an update about how all of the new systems are going for our school, for our high schools, and also get a feel for what's going on at those schools from the principals. So first we're going to start with some district staff that are going to speak a little more generally to our systems that we've rolled out this year, what's out there now, how it's working, what's coming, grading, all of that kind of thing that's coming down the pike, to talk about that. We have Mike Sherman, who is data director,
Director of Data Management.
Director of Data Management, and Carrie Jacobs, who is an online learning coordinator, thank you. First up to speak, and then we'll have each of our principals from Valley Southwoods, Mitch Cunard, and from Valley High School, David Maxwell, we hope will be here to talk a little bit more about those specific buildings. So I will hand it over to the district folks. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we were asked to come and kind of share a little bit about grading practices, how those processes may be different in Infinite Campus, in Canvas, and some of those other systems. This year we're implementing the 5 effective grading practices, and it's a process. So it wasn't like on a certain date we said, okay, now this is how everybody does everything, because it takes us a little bit of time in the process to make those adjustments in our courses and such, so that everybody can kind of become accustomed to it. So the grading practice transition, it is a transition, it's a process. And one of the shifts that's happened with that is moving our grading to Infinite Campus, or from Infinite Campus to Canvas. The Canvas system allows for multiple ways to provide feedback. So teachers can provide audio feedback, video feedback, or traditional written feedback. There's a lot of more options that we have in terms of setting up how those grades are calculated and how kids submit their work. It's also very similar to the systems that kids will be using in post-secondary, because all 3 of our state universities are using the Canvas system as well. So the other nice thing about the Canvas platform is we have all of our resources that go along with the assignments there for kids to see, and it's all laid out in a really nice organized fashion. So right now, the grade that students and parents see in Canvas at the end of the semester, that's the grade that we'll post to the transcript. We did try to pass that grade back into Infinite Campus, so we'd have the same grade in both systems. And so our first attempts at getting those 2 systems to talk and reliably show the same grade were difficult. So we made a decision that let's just work on getting one right first. And so right now the plan is, and what we're asking teachers to really focus on is, let's focus on that end graded Canvas that everybody can see right now anyway. And at the end of the day on Monday, what that grade is, that's what will go on the transcript. Now teachers do have the ability within that grade book to adjust that grade up or down depending on different scenarios. So we have some additional freedom in terms of the teacher's professional judgment when they assign a final grade that we didn't have it in Campus. So we're taking advantage of that. And in the event that that final grade in Canvas needs to change, we have had a process in place for years where we can change that transcript grade. So we'll just kind of follow those traditional practices. So I guess what I would advise you is that if what you're seeing in Canvas is what you expect to see, that's what we're going to go off of for the grade. If you see something that doesn't look right or that you're not sure about, make sure you're talking with your child, with the teacher, and if they can't answer your questions, reach out to an administrator or any of us here at the district office, and we can help you with that too. So our end result is we want to make sure that that final grade that you put on the transcript is the accurate grade that the teacher intended it to be. And we have a lot of people that are all trying to make this happen all at the same time. And so we have to be patient with that. But so far,
as we get ready for the last day of the semester, which is tomorrow. We're on track where we feel like we should be. So if there's specific questions about that.
I will add that when we put the grade on the transcript is available in the Infinite Campus portal to be able to see that final grade when it's posted. It'll be posted a week from tomorrow. If everything goes according to plan. We're going to take the grades from our system on Monday, make sure that they're right, and they'll be available for students and families on the transcript by the end of the week.
So teachers are expected to have all of their grades in Canvas by what day? And I'm just asking that because that's typically something that the parents ask that.
So and I
Because
can't,
Monday's
I
a
can't
fast
predict
turnaround.
what they've communicated to all of their classes, but our expectation is that their contract states that they'll post grades by the end of the day on Monday, the 13th, yeah.
So the grade will be in Infinite Campus by the 3rd.
By the end of the day on Monday, okay.
Yeah.
So they've got Monday to catch up on work.
So if you're looking at something now that doesn't look right, well, finals are happening right now and it might change. And tomorrow at the end of the day, well, maybe they took a final tomorrow, but they're still working on grading some of those things. So there's a little bit of flux that happens as we make sure that we get everything documented and recorded and accounted for. It's through Monday. Now, there's also a new thing for kids that have outstanding evidence or things that are still with special circumstances. We may have some students that have an incomplete status, and they have like a 2-week window to still submit things that we can put on the grade. And what we would do in that case is they may be awarded an incomplete grade, And they have 2 weeks to submit evidence
to change that.
And how do students find out if they have the ability to ask for an incomplete? Is that something they will know from their advisor at this point because they were out ill or?
That's something they're working out directly with their classroom teacher for that course. And if that's not being supplied for them, then we have our supports, our counselors and other administrators in the buildings that can help them out. So if that's something that they should be communicated to them, the teacher should be letting them know, hey, I don't have sufficient evidence here, we need to work together. And so that's a process, it should be in place.
How can you tell on Canvas, I mean, because I use the student one because the parent one didn't do me any good, just to be honest. So I have the student because someone at Valley High School told me to just install the student one. And so I look at that, and if I go into like into a class, and then click on grades, like I can see, anything that's gonna have a grade, but I think some of those grades don't really count. So how can you tell what is accumulating to come to the grade that and to actually see the actual grade, I have to go to the parent one to see the grade, like the overall grade. So how can I tell what makes up that overall grade?
So if it has a, yes, so you're asking how do I see what is the overall final grade for my student?
Well, I can see a total grade.
You can see a total grade.
Yeah, but like what makes that up? Because if I go to the grades of the student, like I know some of those don't count.
Right.
How do I know what
Yeah.
makes up
The question is how do I know what is being
What counts?
put into, what counts as that final grade?
Yeah.
That's a hard question to answer from a general standpoint because it depends on the teacher's curriculum. Some teachers have daily work listed as practice work, things that they can do, but it's not part of the grade. You also said that you used the student view on the app because the app wasn't helpful for you. I'm guessing you're an iPhone user? Okay, and you got into Canvas early, because they have recently pushed through a new parent app on the iPhone and the Android that's awesome. It's much better. I can see I'm a student of a Valley Southwoods student as well. I'm the parent of a Valley Southwoods student as well. Flip that for you, sorry. And I love the parent app now. At the beginning, if you added it in September, maybe even into October, especially the Apple app was awful. we were telling everybody to go to the student view because it was terrible. But around mid-October, they pushed out a new update to the parent app. And so if you are still using that student app, I recommend switching to the parent app because it is so much better. You can delineate between children and everything. I'll finish the rest of her question. So just as a side note to that, but as for what's in the grade, there's a couple symbols to look for in Canvas. One of them is a black exclamation point. If you see that black exclamation point in when you look at the assignment list, that's telling you that that assignment is not part of the final grade. That assignment is just a practice assignment that hasn't been added into the final grade. You also see assignment categories. If a teacher has decided to have categories, they have weighted those categories, and you'll have some categories that have 0% of the weighting. And so if it says 0%, that means it's not going into the final grade at all. So a lot of teachers have listed their essential life skills as its own separate category, and we're not grading on behavior at all, but we're providing that rich feedback for the student on what can they do, for example, to improve their professionalism.
Where do you actually see like the weight then?
So that's in the assignment, when you're looking at that individual grade of all the list of assignments, up at the top right where it has the assignment, the final score, if they do weighting, you're gonna see a list of all the weighting categories and what the weighting is. And so it should,
like, well, I don't know, I'll update my parent app, but like in a student app, I just go to grades. And then I can see like all of the quizzes and homework and whatever.
Yeah, in that individual grade report.
That's where I can see this.
Yep, you'll be able to see the weighting there if they're weighting it. Yep.
And
Thanks.
sometimes teachers will put a grade in and use a 0 or a point out of 0. If the side, which is the total points, says 0, that's another indication that it's not adding into their final grade.
Yep, so it's more of a, this is a practice, is there a point value to it, it's just something we need to do. Yeah.
I don't know if I missed this, but, and this is not a criticism, I'm just trying to understand. So some of the classes are graded on a 100-point scale, 0 to 100, and others are graded on a 4-point scale. Are we moving towards the 4-point scale? Because it was just hard when we see percentages, and I'd see like, 85%. My son's like, oh, no, that's an A, that, 75 to 100. So I got a little confused there. We have to flip back. Oh, no, that's a 4-point. No, that's a 100-point. Are they moving towards one or towards the 4-point? I guess.
So the question is, we have the 2 different grading scales that you're seeing in your grade books. You see some final scores are based on a 4-point scale. You're seeing some final scores based out of a 100-point scale. And the question is, are we moving towards one or the other? And I'll let you answer that one.
So I think there's a couple layers to it. I think first of all, like our guidance as a district is we're still grading on a 100-point scale. So an A is still a 90%, and B is still an 80%, and so forth. There are some teams that have moved to a 4-point scale, meaning there are 4 levels of feedback that they're providing. So you meet, you're proficient, you're not quite there yet, you're not close. So when we do an assignment, it's really a good way for us to kind of break out that feedback for where am I on my completion here. Those teams are moving towards being able to take that feedback on those 4 layers of feedback and convert it into a calculation that gives us a 100-point scale. So what we're seeing right now is some of that learning that we're going through and how to do that. Shane, do you want to add to this? Shane's sitting in the back here, he knows a little bit.
Yeah, do I have to come up? Oh, no.
Yeah,
We're
sorry.
gonna pull Shane into it
Well, we're
also.
glad you're here. Thank you, Shane. Can you tell everyone who you are?
Fix my hair. I'm Shane Scott, Director of Secondary Curriculum. So I've just been sitting back. Oh, I recognize a lot of faces now that I'm in this side. So the question was, are we shifting to a 4-point scale? We're going to maintain the 100-point scale through the multiple years of work of different various task force. 2 scales were, in the past, I'll use this kind of loosely, it was kind of the Wild West, and each teacher could choose any system that they wanted to. We had teachers using the 5-point, some using the 10-point. some using 100-point, and we just kind of adapted to whatever scale the teacher decided to use. We've narrowed that field down from the grading practices expectations now. There's only 2 scales, so to speak, that teachers can use, either a 100-point scale or a 4-point scale. So it's one or the other. We have had a lot of professional development supportive of using the 4-point scale and proficiency standards as they're called. There is not a requirement by teachers to go to a 4-point scale, but I will say that a lot of the professional development support and current educational literature is very supportive of a 4-point scale. So it is a PLC or individual teacher choice to select between the 2. I would say that the vast majority of the support is, one, making sure we're following those 5 effective grading practices, we're teaching to the core, but more explicitly being specific about the feedback we're giving to students and parents. What does the A constitute in terms of evidence of that level of proficiency? And so many, if you read a lot of the literature, that's educational literature that's out there, it's very difficult to give feedback on 100 different levels of proficiency versus 4 levels of proficiency. And so I'll just kind of leave it at that. I could absolutely see where a lot of staff members would probably characterize my involvement with them as being very supportive of going to a 4-point scale, as that's where I'm providing a lot of the support, professional development, and the resources. But it is completely a individual teacher choice if they use the 100-point or 4-point scale system. There's teachers who have been in our district for probably the last over 10 years who have been using a 4-point system. And one of the concerns when we were making that shift in grading practices is if we make everybody use a 100-point system, but we have some very good practices with the 4-point system, maybe we need to be aware of what that current educational research is that's out there. So we've just essentially kind of narrowed the field. Teachers have a choice between those 2, and they see a lot of support coming from me to making that shift. It's a lot easier to give feedback on 4 levels of something versus maybe 100 levels of something. So to answer your question, I think teachers would probably say, yeah, we're headed in that direction, because that's where the majority of the support would be in their growth.
And in terms of your final, what you see as a final grade in Canvas, all teachers have been instructed. It just, as we, fail forward, we've learned, we've tried some different scales and seeing that final grade. So there are a few teachers that it was too hard to make the shift in the middle of the semester. So they're still reporting, like you'll see that 3.0A as their final grade. Second semester, you shouldn't see that. Everybody's final grade will have that 100-point scale. You'll see an A, a B, a C. You might still see the 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll in the assignments as they score their assignments, but you will not see it. You should not see it in the final grade. In the final grade, it's supposed to be converted to that 100-point scale, and they have the instructions to have that happen.
So I'll summarize really quick. I think we're kind of all saying this. I know we're saying all the same thing because we are, but to make sure it comes together is. Before we started this journey, we had more grading scales than we did teachers, because we had teachers that used more than one grading scale for different classes. We're moving to a system where we're trying to use 1 or 2 ways that we calculate the grade. One is more predictable for you, the student, more predictable for us, so that when we have conversations about achievement, we're all talking about the same thing. So keeping that in mind, we've gone to a system with more grading scales than we had teachers. I'd say our current reality is that we maybe have 4, 5, or 6 different calculations happening that result in a grade of an A, B, C, D, or F on a transcript at the end of the course. So you will see some here and you will see some there. We're moving more and more towards a system where maybe we have 2 ways that grades are calculated. And that helps us support teachers with how that works. It helps teachers support each other. Because when they're all in the room together, well, we're doing the same thing. So now we work together. Before we were all doing our own thing. So, does that answer your question?
I mean, that's good to know, yeah. It's a little confusing for the kids too, especially my junior high kid, where she sees, you see all these percentages and it's not apples to apples.
Right.
Until you go over to another link and then it tells you, oh, this is on a 4-point scale. I'm like, oh, okay, well, and that is an A. Okay, didn't know that.
So I have a
follow-up to that. So my question is, are we asking departments to be consistent? So would we ask the English department to be consistent? And then beyond that, if we're not, if we're allowing some flexibility within that, are we asking teachers who teach the same subject, such as Spanish 4, where there's more than one teacher teaching it, to be consistent so that they are, because a lot of times they're using the same test, so are they expected to then grade in a similar way?
So if I call black and white, they have to pick individually one scale or the other. They've been serving with each other in PLCs for quite some time. So the pattern is, most commonly, you'll see PLCs of like subjects grading in the same fashion.
But no. So the answer is no, they
The
don't
answer is
have to.
no,
Okay.
they don't have to, but you will see patterns, like if I have a child in US history and different teacher than your child, oh, they're using the same grading, because it allows their PLC to have more enriching, meaningful conversations. And I will say that there are many groups that are dabbling over here in maybe a sandbox of maybe how to go to use scales, and they're thinking about it second semester next year, but they feel like they want to learn more. And that's where I feel like we made a good move as a district in terms of not flipping the switch and forcing it for everybody, so they could stay in what they were familiar with while they learned and dabbled. But then again, we had a lot of people already using that practice, and they could continue what they felt was best practice with kids.
So there's a shot that if I had a child in Spanish for first semester with one teacher, and because of scheduling, they switched to the other teacher for second semester, just because it just doesn't work any other way. They could have
happens.
two separate graded scales
They could.
for 1 year. Okay, all right, I just wanted to ask the question.
Shane, could you explain what it is?
But two different teachers who approach that same grading scale differently. Because it seems like a lot of the foreign language teachers have the 4-point scale, but some teachers think like nobody should get a 4. And then there's others who a lot of students can get. I mean, so you could have the same grading scale, but the teachers don't approach the grading scale the same way, even within the same department.
So the question was, what's the PLC, professional learning community? So that would be like teachers
like
teaching
that.
like subjects coming
Yes.
together and having conversation. And those are the topics that need to be on the table for those PLCs to have conversation
Yes.
about. That's an intended agenda item or a component of what they should be doing in their PLCs. So not only are we talking about how do kids perform on Unit 1 test, if your kids did better than mine, what are you doing so I can learn from you and be a better teacher? But also, integrator reliability. How did you score that? We ask teachers a lot of times, in fact, it'll happen January 20th at some professional development with our secondary folks. I'm asking teachers, bring some pieces of student evidence. We're going to talk about where that student evidence best fits. And oftentimes when I engage in that conversation with a colleague that understands the content the same way I do, we make, wow, you thought that was a 4 and I thought it was a 3. Why? And we dig into deeper as to what are we each looking for? What are we seeing that's different? All I can say is that over time, I anticipate that practice to be more consistent. And as people come in from outside our system or leave our system, we constantly have to have that conversation. Otherwise, we get that integrator reliability issue, and you may request one teacher over another teacher based off of what you've heard of how they grade.
Appreciate your patience.
Yeah.
Is it me? Fine? Really?
Yes.
Sure? Me? Okay, well, I'm gonna go backwards now because wait, but, so I installed the Canvas parent app in September. So are you telling me that I need to go on here and I need to delete my app and then re-go into it? Or how do I get that updated?
Once the meeting's when we get a chance, when we're done with our questions, I can look at it and tell you if it's been updated or not.
Okay. That's it. See,
there's
that's
an
simple.
update.
But there is
Easy
an
peasy.
update. Yes, there is an update that really makes the app really cool for parents,
Yeah,
especially
'cause I
if
don't
you're
like
an early
it.
adopter.
I mean, it's just, yeah, okay.
And that update's available through,
For your app stores.
yeah, through the App Store. So if you've already installed it, go to your App Store, hit the update button for that app, and it will update it for you.
So is there instructions anywhere for those of us that are late adopters and don't have Canvas?
So the question was, are there instructions for parents that are still getting into Canvas? Yes. That is all. There's a whole page on our website all about Canvas. So there are step-by-step.
Enter one and search for Canvas?
Go to the parent page and it's right there at the top.
She's there.
Yes, it's me. Yeah, there's a 45-minute video, step by step, every possible detail you could think of to get through, install Canvas, how to manage Canvas. There's step by step handouts if you prefer paper, anything. We've tried to provide as many options as possible to get connected to Canvas, but it's all there on I think it's called Using Canvas with Your Student, I think.
And hopefully, maybe we can link to it off the Facebook page too, just below this conversation, so that people can just click on it and get there too.
And my name is Carrie Jacobs. Call me. I will walk you through it. I understand that it's a whole learning process for everybody, especially who aren't as connected or use the computer as much. And so I take many phone calls every day helping parents get connected. So happy to help and happy to walk you through it. Yeah.
Question, grading system, you said a two system, for grade, 1 to 4 or 100. But at the end, on the transcript, we will convert to A, B, C, D, right?
ABC.
Are we going to still have A minus, B plus, or
There's one exception.
Yeah, we have, at Valley High School, we have never calculated, or Valley Southwoods at the high school level, plus or minus is never calculated into a student's GPA. It may have been printed, but it's never been weighted higher or lower than that, like a B being a 3.0.
it's fine for GPA from high school, but I heard college will recalculate.
So our DMAC instructors, Mike and I just wrestled with this.
Mhm.
So yes, courses that are for DMAC credit, the scale does have a plus and minus. And when teachers go to report those DMAC scores, if you were to pull up your child's DMAC transcript after that teacher's posted it, then our plus or minus is reflected in their DMAC transcript.
Right, but other college, when you apply, we send a transcript that has A minus. I searched online, A minus is not 4.
Well,
That's why I want to confirm the new grading system.
A minus for us is a 4.
Right.
Yep,
But,
I get when you transfer it to another university or wherever it might be, they may reinterpret that another way.
On our transcript, when you look at your transcript, though, you will not see an A minus, you will see an A.
But right now, we do have.
In Canvas, if it's a DMAC course,
Oh.
you'll see an A minus, and DMAC will post an A minus, but Valley will post an A.
Oh,
So, and the reason is because we recognize A minus, A plus, and A as the same grade. So we put in our transcript, we just put it on as an A.
so official transcript, we won't be able to see.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
college,
right.
transcript has pluses and minuses.
And so you might have a teacher that hasn't selected the West Des Moines grading scale that they're supposed to select.
But on the transcript
And so
in
if-
Infinite Campus that they send to their college, if there's pluses and minuses on it, and I can look into it. Right, unless they're transferred in from another institution.
Have pluses and minuses on it.
Really?
Is it from junior high?
Junior high.
Geez, my daughter's.
So I do think Mike's position is new as the data director.
Send to colleges, have pluses and minuses.
Yeah, and I've been in the district probably too long. But one of the things that I've noticed is that, yeah, we'll put a plus or minus in the transcript we have in the past, but it's never been used to calculate the GPA.
Right, I understand.
But I hear what you're saying, there's still a plus or still a minus that's being printed on the transcript.
and so if you forward that to a college, it sounds like people have had an experience potentially of a recalculation by that college to figure out the accurate GPA according to that college's grading scale. While some schools, we're not the only school in the world that uses
Straight.
A minus, yeah, straight percentages for A, B, C.
Yeah.
I can confidently say that that practice is not in place this year, and I don't believe we had it in place last year. So moving forward, any grades that are posted, it'll be an A, a B, or a C, there's no pluses or minuses on it.
Right, the reason I ask is that in junior high, I was told 3 is A. So some teacher just put 90, everything is 90. But potential 90 is A minus, not A. That's why I wanted.
This year, the junior highs actually moved to straight letter grades and they don't have pluses or minuses.
Correct.
Just want to confirm.
However,
So
And
to
going
agree,
back.
to understand, the concern is when we send the transcript to get our kids to apply to college, sometimes a competitive college, if it has an A minus, that competitive college will recalculate that to compare our child to someone else. So is there a way, a process, that those that are seeing this on their official transcript can get those minuses removed? So that before it's sent to the college, for them to be compared to other students, they're on equal footing.
I can look into that. I need to talk with our registrar. It's more than my decision, but I can look into that. And if you want to reach out, and I'll make a note to get back to the group.
That would be awesome. Because I think as a parent of someone who's a sophomore in college, it was my understanding that they weren't there, and I've looked at her transcripts, I don't remember.
The only cases that I've noticed them explicitly was if you transfer into their institution.
But the calculation is, in the GPA, is accurate. So like, you can, for whatever reason, I'm looking at just random students up at Valley right now and Southwoods both. The pluses and minuses are on the transcript as it's printed, but then you see like A minus, it's a 4 out of 4. So in this particular instance, yes, if someone that would make it much easier for the universities to do a recalculation, and I'd be curious to know what if that's a requirement actually still. So I'm not sure.
You can definitely look into it.
I did a search online, one page they have conversion.
Yeah, no, I definitely know there's universities that will recalculate. So the question becomes, is it mandated, like, or if Mike finds a way on it, because this is a canned report on Infinite Campus, so they're going to be reporting, that's pulling from a grade that's actually typed into Infinite Campus that's coming up as the A minus. We haven't calculated the GPA correctly, but it is showing the minuses and the pluses at this point in time. So our question would be, on our transcripting, can we get rid of those? So, because then, but here's the deal, a university still may come back and say, I want the percentage of what this A is. And you'd still have to go through it. Or DMAC is required.
So I think just to wrap that up, we have some more learning to do about that. I think I heard from Mike, tell me if I'm paraphrasing you incorrectly, there won't be pluses and minuses going forward, but we will have to look into what that plus and minus look like for historical record in the past and the impact that it might have in terms of application to various universities. There was a question from the field. I'm going to let Carrie answer.
Yeah, we had a Facebook question about pairing codes for students that possibly ran a pairing code and then the parent didn't get connected by the 7 days. So wanting to know if they can get another pairing code. And yes, a student can run a pairing code anytime. They just have to log in, go to their settings, and click that link to pair with an observer, and it will run them a whole new pairing code. If your child is being a little frustrating with giving you that pairing code, any teacher, any counselor, any principal can also run pairing codes for you. Same as always, a phone call to me and I can run a quick pairing code and get you connected right away in just a few minutes. So we understand that teenagers in their independence, they don't like to always work with us. So there are many options for creating that pairing code, and pairing codes can get run anytime.
There's also a podcast that Carrie and I did that's out available online that answers a lot of questions related to Canvas and can be very helpful if you're driving in the car and want to listen to something interesting.
Yes, beautiful. All right, so thank you so much, especially thanks to Shane for just jumping up here and jumping in. That helped out a lot, and we really appreciate your time. And I think we're going to move on now quickly to the principal, so we'll let you guys head out. I know you've got work, and we appreciate you jumping in. So we'll start with, are either one of you on a time crunch? Do either one of you need to get out, either of the principals? So I'll probably have Mitch go first, sorry. Mr. Cooner, the Valley Southwoods principal, is going to speak next. Just give us a little update about what's going on there with the systems. I know you have that reward system in place that's a little different than Valley High School, and touch on that, touch on how you think things are going with Canvas at your school and all of that, and I'll leave it to you, and then if you take about 10 minutes, we'll give Mr. Maxwell about 10 minutes, and we'll go.
All right, I'm gonna
talk for 5, answer questions, and move on.
And move on. I'll do my best to be as quick as I can on this. So a lot of the questions from Valley Southwoods that are, I guess what's on top for me right now is as we are finishing up this semester, so we're in finals right now, so these last 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, have been our open campus finals days, both at Valley and Valley Southwoods. Next week, we'll have a day off. Kids don't have school on Monday, but then Tuesday we start second semester. So the 14th is starting the second semester. we kind of hit the ground running next week. So we at Southwoods will have on Monday, because Dave may talk about this, like next week is really odd. So when we start the new semester, because we have to start on a Tuesday, we try to have 8 period days for this whole week. So we have kind of unique schedules between the two buildings because we don't want to start on just the block days. Kids are rotating to their new classes, new teachers. We want to be able to have them meet all 8 of their, go through all 8 of their courses. So for us, on Tuesday, the 14th, alluding to our PBIS Rewards app, we are having an 8 period day that runs us through all of the kids' schedules, and then in the afternoon we're doing an all-school assembly to do our first semester rewards recognition assembly. So the kids will have kind of the end of the day, we'll be going through acknowledging our kids that have won our Tigers of the Month from our PBS Rewards app that we've been using this year. The kids that have been acknowledged they've been acknowledged up on our bulletin boards, but now they're going to be recognized in front of the staff. We'll have some fun activities, some relays, we're actually using our PBS Rewards app. We'll run some live raffles. We're giving $50 away in gift cards, which this group has helped us accumulate. And so, and they'll also get to give a pie in the face of the principal and a pie in the face of the assistant principal. And so those are all going to be happening live on the 14th. So just some fun. So kind of kicking off in the fun fashion. Then that evening, we are kicking off and we're starting into our registration conferences. And those are different from Valley Southwoods. Those are kind of unique in the sense of you should have gotten an email from your advisor this week, probably yesterday or today or within the last few days. If you haven't, be looking for that in your email inbox. But each advisory teacher sends a message out for you to log in for a 15-minute conversation with your teachers. This is preparing, we changed these registrations several years ago. We're preparing for you to go through the registration process from 9th to 10th, because that's what we're going to be doing right away.
So this is 9th grade only?
9th grade only, so this is not for anybody other than that. So in those registration conferences, you'll have a 15-minute interview where you'll sit with your advisor, your student's advisor. They will review the grades from first semester, give you any indications if there's some supports that need to be possibly put into place and who to contact for that. Talking about Canvas pairing codes, if you're a parent that still has yet to do that, you'll be able to sit with a teacher and they can help you do that process. And we're also going to be rolling out the pairing code for the PBIS Rewards app. I see Andy in the back, and actually, Jen, I'm going to actually guinea pig you here today before we're done. We are opening the app up for our parents to see the interactions on that as well. So you'll be able to see points awarded, you'll be able to see discipline referrals, and that you should be able to see the cumulative of all of those things from the beginning of the school year. That might be a little shocking for some. I'm going to front load this a little bit. Anything that gets put in the PBS Rewards app is what's called a minor for us, meaning it was dealt by the teacher directly, and it resulted in maybe just a conversation. At very most, with the teacher and minor, it would have resulted in maybe they had to do a little quick detention with the teacher. Anything that would be a major consequence, that still gets put into Infinite Campus, and an administrator would use that, and we would end up calling you based on what we deliver for a consequence. But some people might be surprised that they might see 15 minors, like from first semester, or more. What those are touch points. Those are how many times a teacher or somebody, an administrator possibly, or even an associate, had to pull your student aside and say, hey, that's not how we do this around here, okay? Doesn't mean that it went beyond that. You wouldn't have got a phone call for that. These are just the everyday conversations that we have with our students. So I don't want, when we open this up, this is what I'm nervous about. People are going to be like, what? There was 30 interactions in the first semester with my kid and I never once heard about it? No, that's true, because they're considered, these are coachable moments, teachable moments that this is the first time we've ever captured this evidence. We've never had a tool or anything that has ever caught all of these conversations. So I'm nervous, but at the same time excited, because I think it's going to be a great tool for a parent to be like, hey, I saw your science teacher had a little conversation with you today. Let's have a conversation with you now. So it will give you kind of a new level of conversation opportunity for your students. Here's my challenge. The reason I haven't been able to just push that out to everybody is that the PBS Rewards app links to Infinite Campus, and literally any email under your student's name would be pushed a message saying, hey, you can log into the parent app. And I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that mom, dad, significant guardians are the ones that are getting that information. So that's why we're going to do a soft rollout through our advisory meetings that you're going to be going to or signing up for, so that I'm making sure that I get the right person and not aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, that kind of thing. So if that's something that you don't go or aren't able to attend, at any point in time, you can contact me and I can push the link out to you. Andy's experienced this. She's one of my PTO reps at Valley Southwoods, and so I tested this out with both of my folks there, and it is providing the information that I thought it would. So those are the big things for me that I want to talk about. Like I said, it's the registration conferences and getting our kids now ready for 10th grade. So questions? I was going to go there first.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. I got emails from teachers related to advisory.
Yep.
One of them is the advisor, and one of them isn't. Are the teachers new to this, signing up for conferences, or do I just ignore the one from the one who's not an advisor?
Yeah, I'll restate the question. The question is, you got 2 emails from, one was an advisor, one was not an advisor, requesting a meeting time.
But said they were the
Advisors.
Yeah, both of them did.
That's a mistake. Go with the one that is the advisor. If you know who that is, go with the one you know. Just for the sake of having that conversation, we have hired some new staff on it, so there's been some transition of a few people, but that shouldn't happen. So you and I can talk either individually, but for the most part, if you know who the advisor actually is, schedule with that person.
Okay.
So will you be scheduling classes for 10th grade during this conference? Is this the only?
No, this is the first time that we'll basically show parents. Here's what you do: you'll have a 15-minute conversation with the teacher, the advisor, and then you have an opportunity to come and sit with an administrative. We're doing 3 concurrent sessions. We call it the roadmap to registration. And basically, you'll get my view and my take on how parents can help support the registration process. Most of what we do with our 9th graders is done in classes. So our high school counselors are coming down to work with us. We're kind of holding their hand back and forth. We do want you to see the things that they're putting down, what we call the green sheet. This is the registration form, and we do ask the parents to sign off on that. So that's something that we talk about. You should be looking for this. But what this registration does for you gives you a chance to hear firsthand, where is your student at? Talking with the administrative team will give you a timeline of when everything happens and what to expect as a parent. Prior to this, we never had the parents in the loop on this. So that's why we moved our conferences all the way up to the beginning of the semester, so that we could intentionally get you on board so you know what's happening. None of the information that we share during those conferences is earth-shattering, and quite honestly, it's redundant. You can come to our conferences and you can hear me talk. On Thursday the 16th next week, Valley High School has their 9th to 10th grade meetings where you'll hear from David Maxwell directly. And that's going to be, again, something that there's multiple locations to get all the same information. So if you miss these conferences, you can also get it on Thursday at Valley High School itself.
Did each of the advisors send out the exact same message?
Supposed to.
Okay, it's the same one.
Yes.
Where the message actually says, only if you have strong concerns should you attend the 15-minute. So it wasn't really an invitation for everybody to go to the 15-minute. Was that intentional?
I think we might be mixing those two. Mine should have said, it should have been everything. So is it coming from?
It's coming from the advisor.
Okay.
And the advisor specifically says,
If you have concerns. Strong concerns. Okay.
sign up for 15 minutes. Which is kind of different than what you're saying here, sign up for the conference to discuss.
Yeah.
So,
Let's talk. I want to make sure that that's my message and not the Valley message. Yeah. Because you do have similar scenarios where you have a 15-minute sign up where it is only strong concerns. This for me is really designed for everybody to attend. We really want everybody coming in. So I'll talk.
Really about everything.
Okay. I'll check it out.
I have one other add-on question.
Yep.
I wondered how you thought teacher participation with the reward system went for the first semester.
Yeah.
Was there consistent participation among all the teachers listing positive and negative interactions with students, and what you saw is that, and then.
Yeah, so the best way I can describe it is that, like most things, we started really strong. So like, I actually just sent this out while I was sitting in the back of the room. Our bell curve starts really strong in September, October, and then November, December, all of a sudden the number of points given out declined, okay? So it's just like anything. It's one of those things, as we get to the end of the semester, teachers are thinking about finals, they're worried about getting the kids through. So we need to bolster that. This is the first time for this, so we had no idea what the ebb and flow would be, but I definitely needed to send out, hey, let's get back on this, let's get back on getting those positive rewards given out on a more timely basis.
Right.
That being said, our points, I did check too in terms of what we're doing for the most part is raffles. Every Friday we're having a giveaway, so it's a $10 gift card to Jimmy John's, $10 gift card to Kohl's. I mean, we've had kind of a random assortment. We've got apparel that we're giving away, and we're linking those things together. And then kids it's just like the lottery. I can use my points to sign up for those and put 5 tickets in, 1 ticket per point. And those have been going very well. That's where we've seen an increased participation in the number of students signing up and the number of points being used for those raffles. So they're catching on. And like I said,
right.
The 14th we'll do some things live. And they'll be able to participate right in the moment, and so that's kind of where we're seeing that kids use most of their points. So, but it has declined a little bit. So we got to get back up. So
There was an online question related to, could you just spell out the dates again for next week? And
Yep. So Tuesday and Wednesday after school. So those are so Tuesday's a regular 3:30 to about 7 o'clock. Or till 7:30, we will have these registration conferences, but they are to be scheduled through their advisors, so they need to actually schedule them. If they've never got that email, they can call our front office. Every one of my secretaries could actually log in and schedule a time with their advisor. And that's Tuesday and Wednesday night. Wednesday, we have an early out day, so that's where it's 2:30 till 7 o'clock. So it's after school both Tuesday and Wednesday. Thursday night is at Valley High School, and that starts at 6 o'clock, David. And from 6 to 7, that hour is really designated for going around and talking to the different groups. And
That starts at 7.
It starts at 7?
Yes.
Okay, so in the PAC then? Okay, and that's when your team will be presenting the information. So here's how I liken it. You'll hear it from us to start off with, giving you the pathway. It's always best to hear from the school that you're going to then on that Thursday. Really making it to any one of those events is going to ground you in the registration process and help support you as a parent how to do this as you go to 10th grade. So.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kuhner.
Thank you.
And we'll have Mr. Maxwell from Valley step up and share for about 10 minutes, and then we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. David Maxwell, the principal at Valley High School. I'm finishing my 3rd semester as the principal at Valley, getting ready to start my 4th, my 2nd year. One of my goals as a principal is that every single student who walks through our doors has a positive educational experience. And I know that sounds like a broad, overarching goal, but once you start thinking about what that means, you start seeing how intricate and how specific it can be. So for instance, when we talk about every student, that means regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of country of origin, regardless of religion, regardless of gender identity, because there have been barriers which have caused situations where some students don't have positive educational experiences because of one of those reasons. So our goal as a building is to remove those barriers so that students, as soon as they walk in our door, they feel like this is my school, this is my building. When we talk about a positive educational experience, that means that they feel connected. They feel like this is my school. People know me. People value me. My voice is heard. They know my name. So in thinking about walking through the hallways, but then when you think about in each individual classroom, that the instruction is what we call culturally relevant. And that means that we don't assume everybody is learning in the same way. It means that we have up to possibly 30 individuals with 30 individual learning styles. And we're not asking teachers to create 30 individual lesson plans. What we're asking is for our teachers to think about when they deliver instruction that they are looking through the lens of as many of those different personalities, all of those different experiences as possible, so that there is that connection that the student has with the content. You know, there are 3 relationships when you think about the learning environment, when you think about a classroom, and the 3 relationships are between the teacher and the content, between the content and the student, and then between, most importantly, between the teacher and the student. We just had some professional learning yesterday around these relationships, and a question that we had was, does one relationship drive the others? You know, is one relationship more important and it has an effect on the others? The way that we're looking at them is like 3 interrelated cogs, that when one spins, the other 2 spin as well. So I'm really excited this year, as we enter the 2nd semester, to really make sure that we are putting things in place for kids to have that positive educational experience. With regards to the PBIS piece, we are going to introduce that to our staff 2nd semester. First semester, we wanted to get effective grading practices and Canvas under our belt, and we did not want to necessarily overwhelm our staff with a new grading system in Canvas, plus a new philosophy around grading with effective grading practices. We wanted instead to have our staff focusing and making sure that we're doing this piece right. And then 2nd semester, we can focus on that behavior piece with the MTSS, the PBIS rewards. Some of our building goals this year, we're focusing on post-secondary learning readiness, meaning that our kids, when they leave our school, they feel like whatever they choose to do with post-secondary learning is that they're ready. And that can mean it can be college, it could be a university, a 4-year university, it could be a 2-year community college, it could be the military, it could be an apprenticeship, it could be whatever where there's continued learning. Also career readiness, if they enter the workforce, that they feel like they are prepared and ready. And then the last one is life readiness, that no matter what happens in life, that they feel equipped to be able to meet those challenges. So we are really, really excited to start our 2nd semester. First semester, I felt, went really, really well. I want to use this quick analogy with the effective grading practices in Canvas and our teachers as they were, building capacity around this. So I'm going to use this example only because we are redoing our kitchen in our home. If you've ever done a kitchen remodel, you know how it can upset everything. There's dust, there's dirt, it just gets really messy. And it's not until you see the final product do you really appreciate all the work that went into it. It kind of feels like that this first semester for us, going through a kitchen remodel, because you're used to having your things in a certain place and you're used to doing things a certain way. But then all of a sudden, you have somebody come in and says, you know what, actually it's going to be more efficient if you put this here and you do this way. And at first you think, what? That doesn't make any sense. But then once it's complete and you're in it and you're doing it and you're working with it, then you think, I could never go back to the way it was before. This is so much better. And so that's how we're approaching our grading this first semester. 2nd semester is going to be so much smoother. And I want to just touch on a point with Liz said really quickly about the 4-point scale. I had this conversation with our department chairs because I had, first of all, some conversations with students that they were concerned that, they believe that the 3 is the highest I can get. And if I get below a 3, it's going to mess up my grade and my GPA. Well, one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to focus on the learning, not necessarily the point or the point chasing. We want to focus on the learning and making sure that this is the focus for our kids. But there was a sentiment that the 4 was this neverland, that I know it's out there somewhere, but nobody knows the way to get to it. So I had to have conversations with my department chairs, and I just reminded them that, the 4 is a real grade that students can earn. And we have to make sure that we are communicating to students, this is the way that you can earn a 4. A student gave me a wonderful example of the extra work that he thought he needed to do to go above and beyond in order to earn that 4. And I used that example with the department chairs. And once we had that conversation, you could see the wheels turning, like, okay, you know what? You're right. We need to be able to share with our students, this is the path to a 4. This is what a 4 looks like in this class around this content. So I don't want to take the whole time. I know if you have any questions, I'd love to answer some of your questions. Tracy.
Okay, so I want to get clarification around the Thursday meeting. Typically, there's been a meeting in January where everybody comes and da-da-da, and then there's a special 1-hour component where they hear about the NCAA, they can hear about scholars, they can hear about, will there be that hour segment?
Yes.
What's the outline? Is there a way to find out what that outline is and what those kinds are?
So there will be so counselors will go to different parts of the building.
Okay.
But then in the PAC, if you want to hear some information around the NCAA clearinghouse, the scholars program, some different programming that we have at Valley, then they will have a segment in the PAC.
10 minutes or so.
Yes, and they'll have that schedule on Thursday night.
Okay, can we get a I know that there's a letter that goes out. I'm a senior, but I want to be able to communicate that out, like I've always done to the group of parents at the wealth meeting. So,
Tell you, can you email me?
Yeah.
Copy Jeff Grassmeyer.
Yep.
With that request, and we'll make sure we get that out.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Has there been an email that goes out about the 16th? I know I have seen that date from a long time ago, but has there been anything to be released
Recently?
I haven't got anything.
Sure.
So this wasn't on my calendar, which it's on my calendar.
I didn't see it.
I can talk to Dr. Jeff Grassmeyer. He is in charge of our scheduling this night, and I can make sure that we get something sent out today.
Yeah, it's something in the announcements.
On Valley Vibes.
Yeah, and or even if we push out one of the instant messages to
Sure. So
folks,
It's for
those are
ninth
still
graders.
effective.
yes, 9th graders who are going to be coming in next year's 10th graders.
We don't get phone messages.
Right, but, yeah.
In the past, the kids have brought home when they want to schedule for next year, a sheet of paper where parents sign off.
Right.
And I'm under the impression that it may all go online, but that parents may not be able to see it. Can you talk a little bit about that change, if it's actually happening?
So
I'm sorry.
Yes, so the question was, will students be bringing home a sheet where parents will sign off on what the classes will be for next year? Yes. We are going to, so we're going to continue with that.
Okay, so the physical
Yes.
sheet will come home.
Yes, and so, but we tightened up the window, because what happened was a lot of sheets were getting lost, and we started the process actually before winter break. This year, we are starting it next Tuesday in advisory. So Tuesday and Thursday, students will be meeting in their advisories and going over conversations around course selection for next year, which is really, really important. One thing that helps students be successful is a schedule, which is, the way I like to talk about the schedule is we have to try to find the sweet spot with the schedule, which means students are appropriately challenged, but not overwhelmed. Some students love to challenge themselves as much as they can. They will take a full schedule of classes. Some of them will focus on try to get as many AP classes in there as possible. Other students, they want to stay with our engineering tech classes, and not saying that that's diminished at all, it's just a different pathway. In terms of our welding classes, some students want to focus mainly on their music classes because that's their passion area. So again, trying to find a schedule which is appropriately challenging but not overwhelming.
So I have a question about last semester during finals, it was a closed campus. In this semester, I kind of felt like it was a pseudo-closed campus. I mean, I think it was in effect, a de facto closed campus, but there was no announcement or anything sent out about that. Can you tell me what it really was, and then I've got an opinion to share with you, because you know I've got an opinion about everything.
Sorry, so the question was Valley High School a closed campus? No, So, the expectation is that students are at school during finals week. And even if they have an early final, we're asking our teachers to provide a final learning experience for our kids. We feel like this time is valuable, and we do not feel that it's appropriate to have 3 days where we just have people just coming and going. We believe that we can utilize this time and use this time either for a student feedback for the teacher, like a student evaluation. We can possibly, in a year-long class, we can start looking at what's coming up for next semester. Class time is valuable time. Instruction time is valuable time, and so we want to try to maximize as much of that as possible. Yes?
So I would ask you to reflect on what was actually being done during those closed class times. I have said to my daughter, well, you can study for the next test. Well, that's fine. What about tomorrow when there are no more tests and she's still going to be there? So I would reflect, I would hope that there'd be some reflection on that. It's actually something valuable. We're not just sitting there.
Sure.
Okay? Because, there's ways in the past students use their time wisely. I'm sure there's plenty of ways they didn't use their time wisely too. But in my household, people maybe they stayed up late studying and they slept a little late, or maybe they came home and they were studying in the afternoon in their own home. Or you think of lower income kids too. If they don't have another test to study for, they could pick up a shift. So I see what you're saying, but I have an opinion on it. So
I think it's I didn't think that was really communicated this year, at least for my kids. They didn't know that.
Did they go?
Oh. There were some classes, no, they didn't go to because maybe they'd already done something at final.
So there was
or there was something that were.
There were some classes that they did not have to attend. Like, for instance, if a student had a study hall,
Yeah, no, I mean.
they don't have to come for a study hall. Learning labs, some of those classes where they did not necessarily earn any credit, we did not make them come for those classes. And we communicated that to our teachers, and we hope that they would have communicated that to the kids, but they
Like
didn't.
an orchestra, they have to do something online, through, and they did something on the last day, and they have to provide something, at least this is the Southwoods.
Sure.
But
Southwoods, I think was over.
I do think Southwoods is more open.
Interesting.
I'm not asking call, so he needs
Yeah, parents can always call students in if
Yeah.
But see, how are we to know whether it's a real valuable thing that's going on in that time, or whether we're just sitting around with the ball? You know what I mean? I don't know how to know.
Okay, so my son just told me I don't have to go to school tomorrow. That's not really true, what you just said.
It depends on what class you have.
If it's obviously if it's a class.
So if you had a first period study hall,
Yeah, no.
you wouldn't have to go.
But if there's actually a class, would there be a situation where he has geometry tomorrow, but he already took the final today? Would that be a reason that he doesn't have to go, or does he still have to go? I want to know because he's going to argue with me.
So
Maxwell said this to me.
So tomorrow, if he had, so tomorrow's finals are periods 1 and 6. Okay, 1 and 6. And so, if, for instance, let's say he had geometry, and let's say earlier in the week he took a test that counted as a final, he would still be expected to be in class tomorrow.
It's such a gray area, yes.
Yes. Question?
So, is next Tuesday at Valley a block day?
No, 8-period day.
It's an 8-period day?
Yes. All next week is going to be 8 periods.
Every single day?
Every single day.
Because I know Mitch was saying that was only Southwoods, so.
Valley as well. Yes. Question?
This is probably an old question, but, so the way that grading and taking is here, maybe it's not so much grading, but the way you can retake tests, and the way that your homework doesn't count, and the way you can turn something in 6 months late, and still get 100% on it if it's good. Has that ever been explained to parents as to the rationale behind that, and how that is the helpful thing? Or what's the rationale behind that? Because some of it seems like it's not teaching our kids very good lessons going forward, not teaching them good habits, or.
I believe it has been communicated, and I do know that the rationale and the 5 effective grading practices are on the district website, and that really does specify the thinking behind what the 5 effective grading practices are.
So can you briefly explain the benefits of doing this, or the
I think we're out of time for here.
Okay, so I'm going to say we're out of time only for Facebook, because Lane needs to get going. She's got, we need to kind of stay on schedule. I think that's an awesome, very valid, very topical question, so I don't want it to.
I can stay and talk to you.
Yeah, so, and if everybody wants to hear the answer, we'll stay.
You can have a speaker come in at a future time, too.
Yeah, and we do need to vote, but we can do that offline as well. So, yeah, thank you, Lane, so much. Thanks everyone for coming. We are going to vote quickly for our